Welcome to the Nightlife Podcast, where we discuss all things having to do with Knights of Pythias.
We are back on the Nightlife Podcast. I'm here with past Grand Chancellor Dylan V. Callahan.
And I'm here with future Grand Chancellor. No.
No, you're here.
I don't want to curse you. I don't want to jinx anybody.
If I was going to be future anything, I'd like to be like future 72-ounce steak winner. No.
We can make that happen.
Yeah. No, tonight's episode is going to be about the reflections of the rank of page. We have had a Sicilian Lodge number 39. We have just had 3 rank of pages, and so it's been kind of a real. We had 2 one meeting, and then we did another one the next meeting. So we've been able to perform it 2 times now back to back, and it's been really, really good. I think, well, I know for me, and I think for a lot of the other guys, to be reminded of the things being said in the rank of page, and just there's a lot of information in the rank, and we want to talk about that. You know, for me, starting out here, Dylan, for me, when I think about the reflection of the rank of page, when I look at myself during the rank of page, what do I remember? And about the rank and about myself, then hopefully, right, you're a different person after you've gone through the ranks. That's the goal of the ranks, is to become a new person and to have, you know, a higher understanding of friendship, charity, and benevolence. And one of the things I think about that I remember is that this isn't just for funsies. This is a real order looking for people who are interested in giving their lives for higher moral purposes like friendship. You know, people who are willing to give their lives for a brother. I think that, you know, the foundation story is taught in the first rank. It's the story of Damon and Pythias. Taking that story that's the foundation of our order and applying it to your life, not just at Lodge, but throughout your interactions in everyday life. That was probably the biggest reflection I had from the rank, is understanding that it's a lifelong commitment. It's not just an at-Lodge, or it's not just for funsies. It's a real thing, and you're making a pledge. You're taking an obligation to do it for the rest of your life. What's a reflection you've had, Dylan, on the rank of page?
Yeah, those are really good thoughts. And before I get into my end, I'd like to ask, if I may, so you were probably at least aware of the story of Damon and Pythias. And so, of course, you know, coming into the Knights of Pythias in the first rank, I don't think this is giving away any spoilers. They kind of explain why we're called the Knights of Pythias. What was your understanding of the story of Damon and Pythias compared or contrasted to how you learned it in the Lodge room?
I knew the very, very basics. I think it, just like Justice H. Rathbone. So it's kind of a long answer, but I understood the story. The story was really cool. I loved it. I'm a fraternalist, and so I love it. But I think what makes Justice H. Rathbone the greatest fraternalist of all time, that's what they called him, was him being able to look deeper than just the story and think, man, that's really cool. Man, that's a good story. I like that. I agree with that. Take it and be able to put a ritual to it that somehow exemplifies those things so simply and so clearly. There's not a lot of like shrouded mystery. I mean, it's very, the rank does a really good job of taking the tenets of the story and putting them into real life application to making them seem simple. And I think that's that was my difference in the story, is just hearing the story and understanding that, wow, that's really cool. And yeah, I can understand why Justice would use the story, to being like, wow, that is deep. And it's much deeper than just the story.
Right, yeah, because you ask sort of my reflections on it. I think I have had, and this is probably true of everybody in the Knights of Pythias, the more exposure I have to the ritual rank work as people are going through the rank of page, I think I've had more opportunities to reflect on it, and especially after you go through Esquire and Knight, and it all kinds of builds back on each other. So Page builds on Esquire, and Esquire builds on Knight, but also Page builds on Knight, and Knight builds on Page, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And really contemplating it and thinking about it and flipping through the ritual book and reading it on my own and then seeing it play out, I do think I light on something new, even if it's just a small detail every time. So it's a pretty cool effect. I think
Yeah.
I'm particularly taken by the emphasis on the Pythian the Pythian definition of friendship. And we in the rank of page we take obligations. And at first it's kind of uncertain, I think, because especially for me, I'm not in any other fraternal groups, so I wasn't sure exactly what the rules are for somebody coming in, like what is expected of me. And then going through the obligations, it's kind of like, okay, I understand these concepts, but how exactly is this going to be applied? Seeing it applied through the future rank work, and then seeing it applied in actuality in whether everyday life or a situation arises and it's like, this now is the time to flex my Pythian muscles, you know? Um, I think for me, the rank of page hits on a concept that's really important, and that is loyalty, yes, to your brothers and to the organization, within certain senses, but really more like loyalty to an ideal, loyalty to an imperative, where you
Yep.
have the basic thought of, Damon and Pythias, they're gonna at the very least fulfill their word. I said I would come back for you, I'll come back for you. Even if it means hardship on my part, I'll come back for you. And especially on the hardship part, it is expressed outside of the ritual. We're not expecting anyone to lay down their life for somebody else. Like Pythias was the hostage for Damon, right, in the ritual. So that if Damon did not return, Pythias's life would be taken instead, and Damon could live. And that was a risk that Pythias he considered that worth taking for two
Yeah.
reasons. One, he loved his brother, and he was certain his brother would come back. So either way, he's fine with it, right? And we've kind of talked about that in other episodes. But it wasn't just that Pythias was a friend to Damon and Damon was a friend to Pythias. They held friendship and loyalty as ideals, those virtues. If you're not living out virtues, then what is even the point of living? And it kind of comes back around to a philosophical point of view where the unexamined life is not worth living. You have to be more than just what's going to get me to the next day, or I want to die at the age of 95 or something. You can have goals like that. Yeah, get to the next day. I hope you live to 95 and more, but like it matters how you live. And I
Yeah.
think that's what touches me most about the rank of page, and so much more that I couldn't get into because it'd be revealing too much of the plot of the ritual, but like there's a really beautiful way to live your life within Knights of Pythias that does not conflict with conscience or creed, and I just really appreciate that.
Well, and I think especially when that first rank, when the rank of page is done correctly, like I think in Sicilian number 39, I think we do a great job. I think the rank work that
Yeah.
we've done is really good. I mean, we had one of the people that went through the rank, got choked up there at the end. So I think we do a good job of presenting it. I think we do a good job of exemplifying it. I think the thing that I love most about the rank of page is as an initiation degree or rank, right? Versus other fraternal degrees, is that I think the rank of Page does a really good job. This evening, I was out to dinner. I'm actually on a business trip and got stuck in Dallas. And I went out to dinner with a Oddfellow brother, and a couple of Masonic brothers also came to have dinner with us. And they were asking us about Oddfellows. They were asking us about Knights of Pythias. And so, of course, I told them Knights of Pythias is kind of my number one thing. I have a podcast about it. I talk about it. I think it's the best. And we were talking about it, and I said, the thing that I love about Knights of Pythias is that, unlike Freemasonry, where you have to join, you can join the Blue Lodge, but then, you kind of almost have to join York Rite or Scottish Rite or other things. Knights of Pythias it's just the lodge. It's just the 3 ranks. And yeah, if you want to join Dokis, you totally can, right? Or Pythian Sisters. But I said, all the information you need to know to be a better human being, all the information you need to know to have higher thought, all the information you need to know to have a real, true fraternal experience is taught in those 3 ranks. That's it. And I think the teaching within those 3 ranks are so much more profound. And to me, it should be clear, right? It only took us 3 ranks to become part of the most strongest brotherhood, basically, that we have in history. Versus you need to go through 9 extra degrees over here, or another 29 degrees over here.
Yeah, and that's a perspective that you bring that I necessarily can't, because Knights of Pythias is the only fraternal organization I'm currently a member of, and that may change in the future. I was actually thinking about that earlier today, that Knights of Pythias and Oddfellows and Freemasonry can not just coexist, but they can feed off of each other and play to each other's strengths. That's something that we've been planning on, and hopefully, we'll have the rubber meet the road on that soon, where we're going to be talking to Freemasons and Oddfellows as Knights of Pythias and saying, we all offer something a little bit different in the theme of fraternalism. We can play off of that, and instead of compete, I don't think we've ever competed in the history of fraternalism, not on a large scale anyway, but we can play off of the strengths of each organization and satisfy the needs of the membership and the needs of the community, etc. So I think there's a really good possibility for cooperation there. And so I would certainly hope anybody who starts out like I do, joins the Knights of Pythias. I'm absolutely interested in Odd Fellowship and Freemasonry, and I've only been enriched by meeting those people along the way and saying, wow, I bet their ritual has something different to offer, something like that. So I'm very gratified that you're seeing extra benefit being a Knight of Pythias. And it's probably true that you might not have joined the Knights of Pythias if it hadn't been for Freemasonry, so thank God for that.
It's true. I always, like I've said, even from our first episode, I have always regretted not joining Knights of Pythias when I was invited to at my Master Mason degree.
Right?
From Masonic brother there in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
But you mentioned you were out to dinner tonight with a fellow Oddfellow.
Yeah.
How do you call it? A brother Oddfellow? Fellow Oddfellow sounds redundant. He's a brother Oddfellow, right?
Fellow Oddfellow.
Yes, a couple of Oddfellers out for dinner. So I have an example. I wasn't planning to bring this up, but as you, David, well know, at the last Sicilian Lodge meeting, Knights of Pythias, I told folks I got to step back because I've got stuff going on at home that requires my attention, lots of different moving parts. I hadn't thought about it until a couple of minutes ago. Everyone in the lodge immediately stepped forward and said, in so many words, we're going to support that. We're going to make that work for you. So you guys are all my hostage as I'm off settling my affairs, like Damon settling his affairs at home. You guys are absolutely fulfilling that obligation for me in the indefinite time while I need to take a break from the more administrative side of things, I can do these podcasts from home just fine. And so, we're all working on stuff together like that. But I definitely think Sicilian Lodge as a whole and the officers in particular are showing the rank of Page by saying Dylan needs a break. He's going to get a break, and he's not going to get
Yeah.
any guff from us. And
Yeah.
there's plenty of room for me to get guff, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen. But I got nothing but support, and I owe that to the strength of character of my brothers. My confidence in them could not be stronger, especially after receiving so much support in that. And these are the sorts of things that the rank of Page teaches its members, the people who go through this
Yeah.
ritual. Here you see it applied.
As everyone knows, in the current circumstance of the fraternal world, when you have someone like Dylan, who is such big shoes to fill for us to step in and try to take over the things all the things that he was doing. But just like he said, as he goes and takes some more time to spend with family and settles those affairs at home, we're going to be here. And when he comes back, we're going to be here for him and show him that we didn't give up, that we learned from the ritual. And because that's one thing that Dylan and I were talking about before the podcast started, and that is that, you can have your bylaws, you can have all the manuals and things, right? But you really, honestly, in some aspects, don't even need those things if you just follow the ritual. The ritual really is the book that you should be learning from on how to be a good Pythian, and what I love is that you have the book of law, right? That is the overarching book for anyone and everyone in the whole world. They should be looking at the book of law and saying, this book can better my life if I follow the teachings. Then you've got the Pythian ritual, which is for those individuals who want deeper meaning of life, a deeper fellowship, stronger morality. You can become a Knight of Pythias, and you've got a circle of people, or a triangle of people, I guess I should say, that are willing to be there for you and do those same things with you. I think that's the thing that Pythianism that I love, and that is that Pythianism just isn't about knowledge. It's not just about community, those types of things. It truly is about a brotherhood. It truly is about, having that. And so, for some people, they really desire that brotherhood. And so in that rank of Page, you're learning about what that is and how it existed and how to make it exist. And then you take an obligation saying, I'm willing to basically learn how to do that. It's not that you're the perfect brother right away. No, you're learning how to be a Knight of Pythias. That is the part that we have to focus on. We have to focus on the ritual, and we have to focus on that it's a learning process. Not everyone is there. You're not going to join the lodge and 2 months later understand it all. A lot of people nowadays are going through all 3 ranks in one day. Give them some time to study that. Have that Pythian education within the lodge. Teach them those things about rank of Page, rank of Esquire, rank of Knight. Teach them those things so that they can expedite their learning process, so that they can become better knights faster.
Absolutely.
Allow them that time. Give them that opportunity to grow. 2 of our pages aren't a part of any fraternal groups, and they really don't understand the culture behind the fraternal world.
Aspect of society, yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to know, oh, I can go get this book, and this book and study it, or I can go do this. It's up to us to teach them. It's up to us not just only to perform the ritual, but to also teach them about the ritual, teach them the knowledge that we're learning within the lodge during Good of the Order. That's our time to give Pythian education, and the education better be on how to be a better Pythian.
That's right. And you're reminding me that Damon and Pythias, it is an historical story. Did it Did it play out exactly as the historians say it did? We have no
Yes,
reason to doubt,
yes, it
so
did.
I actually have notes. I took notes. The story of Damon and Pythias, with very little variation, is attested by Aristoxenus, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Diodorus Siculus, Cicero, also known as Cicero, and Iamblichus. Now, Iamblichus actually lived about 800 years after the story of Damon and Pythias is supposed to have taken place. Nevertheless, um, what they all agree on for certain are the basic tenets of the story, and also that Damon and Pythias were members of the Pythagorean Society or the Pythagorean Brotherhood. They were students of Pythagoras, and if you read up on what it meant to be a student of Pythagoras or an adherent of Pythagoras, it was a long learning experience. It wasn't day one, here's your brochure, study it, and there's a test in the morning. It was years and years of it's a new lifestyle is basically what it was. It can be compared to monasticism. These guys are basically monks, but they're learning about philosophy and mathematics and I mean, philosophy and mathematics, if you have a good grasp of those subjects, that's a very wide ranging area of knowledge, right? What strikes me about the ancients and their take on science, for instance, is science and philosophy were hand in hand. You didn't have some, bare bones, if I can't see it, touch it, taste it, it doesn't exist sort of a scientific approach. It was this thing exists and I have a teleology about it. I have a whole worldview based around how and why these things come together and exist. And so you get reports, which I don't personally believe are accurately retold in the history books, but you have reports about, hey, don't eat fava beans. Well, why on earth can't I eat fava beans? There's a deeper meaning behind that. Do I know what it is? No. I wonder if it's made up, but it's very widely attested. Don't eat fava beans. But it was part of the philosophy. Take roads less traveled. Yeah, don't just follow the crowd, that kind of thing. So in all of their philosophy and even in their mathematics, later on you have Neo-Pythagoreanism that really brings out Platonism and Pythagoras at the same time. So you're talking about theory of forms and as above, so below sort of concepts, and it all gets very esoteric. So I'm trying to keep it focused on what we're talking about. But all of these different areas of life and science and philosophy and history and all of that kind of come together, and they're saying, by the very nature of reality, you should be a better person. By the very nature of reality, mathematically, you should prefer to see your brother well off rather than, yourself well off at his expense, that sort of thing. So I really appreciate that sort of a worldview that Damon and Pythias were coming from within Pythagorean society. So
Yeah.
the Pythagorean teachings were known as symbols. And I think that's literally true and figuratively true. In Knights of Pythias, we have symbols. We have something that we can look at. We see a shield, we see a sword, we see other things I'm not going to get into. And these have meanings based on lessons that are learned within the Knights of Pythias, and most assuredly that was true within the Pythagorean Society. They have fava beans. What's the lesson that you learned when you see fava beans? I don't know what it was. They didn't write it down, but
Yeah. Well,
but that's the sort of thing that we're dealing with. It's very in keeping with those traditions.
I think that is one of the I think that's one of the things that I love most about talking to others. I've talked to a lot of other guys on Facebook and things like that about their ranks and them joining Knights of Pythias and things like that. What I find is that a lot of guys join Freemasonry first, and then they sit there and they think there's just something about Knights of Pythias that seems interesting. It does draw people in. I think what draws people in is the reality that Knights of Pythias is almost like a call to action.
Mhm.
So you have Freemasonry that's kind of a call to thought, but Knights of Pythias is a real call to action. And I think that is attractive to a lot of individuals, especially this younger generation, where not only are you called to a higher way of thinking, but you're also called to a higher way of action. And I say that because within the Pythian rituals, especially the rank of page, you are called to action. You're called to say, you're going to start doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Everything to do with the information within the ritual has to do with the call of action to say, you can be a brother. And the people around you should be your brothers. And if they're not, hopefully the other brothers are helping them do that, being a good brother. And so, and as you continue on to rank of Esquire, that's even more profound. And then to rank of Knight, that's what I love about it. Knights of Pythias is the call to action, and the rank of page does a great job of doing that as an initiatory experience. The other thing, Dylan, I was going to ask you about, and that is that for someone like me, who I went through all three, and you went through all three,
Yes.
at the same time, what was that like for you, experiencing the ranks all at one time? Do you think that you would have you needed that time? You should have had some time between them?
I don't know. I can say for sure that it was like drinking from a fire hose. Because there's a lot of information that gets passed on, and then that rank concludes, and then okay, now we start the second one, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I hope I digested enough of that to to move forward with some confidence that I know what's going on. I think I would have deeply appreciated taking one rank at a time, because it was most definitely in hindsight that I was able to actually digest what is in the rank of page, for instance.
Big proponent. In the past, I've been a big proponent of saying, hey, all three at one time, right? Get this person involved. But as time has gone on, especially with these pages that we just had come in, I'm really starting to see the value in slowing things down for someone's experience, and allowing that time. I mean, one of the pages, for instance, asked me, he goes, so what about this? What about the information I received do I need to remember?
Yeah.
Great question.
And it is a great question.
Absolutely great question.
I think the very biggest and most practical, immediate thing that is helped by having one rank at a time with weeks or months in between is if you can attend a couple of lodge meetings as a page, so you can't get in the rank of Esquire and you can't get in the rank of Knight, as a page, knowing how to enter the lodge room and what is the meaning of the things that go on during the meeting that are explained in the ritual. It's a big ritual. It's kind of long. You're looking at about 30 minutes, right, for rank of page. And very little downtime in that, especially if you're on the production side of things when you're getting ready to put on the work. But with the rank of page, you are dipping your toes in how the lodge works, like mechanically. What opens, what closes, and in what order, that kind of thing. The beyond Robert's rules of order. And it's particular, and some things have obvious symbolic meaning, and other things have a little bit more nuanced meaning. And certain items, if you weren't paying attention, you're going to miss why that's important later, sort of a thing. So, yeah, I think it's fine to do a 3-in-1, but I prefer one at a time.
Yeah, and I think it's better for them too, because one of the things that me and him were talking about is that why again these people didn't have a fraternal background like most people joining do nowadays. He said, so when it comes to the secret work, why is it important? Why do we need it? Being able to have those conversations with individuals, explaining it to them, why it's important, why we need it, why we're using it. You know, Freemasonry does a really good job of that, honestly. Within the ritual, Freemasonry does a really good job of explaining why the secret work is so important. Knights of Pythias, we don't really go into super big detail of why it's important and why we need it and all those types of things. We do give it and we do administer it and teach them how to do it, but there's not a huge explanation of why it's so important, right? Like there is in Freemasonry. And so him asking that question, I was like, yes, you know, it is important and here's why. You know, I think that, you know, that is one thing that I really, really have enjoyed seeing is someone come in with no background, get to experience the ritual for the first time, not knowing anything about it, and then watching them help us perform the next degree, the next rank, you know, the next page we had, he helped, and watching them really start to understand it more, and watching the questions start developing, and the wheels start to begin to turn. It's so satisfying to watch because you don't get that a lot in our day and age because we're not doing a ton of rank work all the time. Most of the people joining are familiar with the fraternal culture. So I've really enjoyed that and his, you know, part of the reflections of the rank of pages, understanding what would a person ask? These are important questions so that next time that we do put on a rank, we can give some, you know, at the end of that meeting, we can maybe have a little bit of good of the order and talk about and answer some of those questions that they might have about the rank, why this is important or why that's important. And next time we bring pages in, explain to them why the secret work is important, what they need to remember, those types of things. So that has also been a really good reflection of the rank of page for me is just these ones that we've just done. And that's why it's important, guys, to be promoting your lodge, be inviting people into your lodge, holding the rank work, doing a really good job. Don't just get them in and get the rank work over with. Really do a good job, even if it takes a little time to get them through the ranks. Take each rank super serious, especially this rank of page. It's their first introduction into our order. Make it the best experience you possibly can. Make sure, you know, at the end of it that, you know, we congratulate them and that we bring them into our brotherhood. I just can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that you give them the correct Pythian experience for the rank of page. Dylan, any closing thoughts on your reflections of the rank of page?
Well, there's just, and I really, what you said was spot on. Absolutely. It's so very important for a variety of reasons. And honestly, no exaggeration, we could go on for hours, especially if we started to get into the less public, you know, aspects of the ritual and how did it get in the ritual? You know, how did we come to have this aspect and that symbol and these things in it? We really could go on for hours. And that's actually something I love to do after the pages have gone through, you know, they're pages now. They're wearing the page jewel. We all sit down, the lodge is at ease. And my very favorite question, it's my favorite time of the entire experience. What'd you think? Was it what you expected? You know, and sometimes it's, yeah, kind of, you know, I had an idea of, you know, what maybe to expect, but this threw me for a loop and, you know, all this other stuff. It's my favorite thing to kind of decompress and go over it. And I like to practice. We haven't done it too much at Sicilian. We did it this last meeting, practicing entering a lodge in the proper fashion and making sure that respect to the lodge is symbolically paid in all the ways that it is, and make the time for that. And if there are questions as to why, hopefully I have the answer. And sometimes, you know, especially before they become a page, when they're just a candidate for the ranks, you'll ask them, okay, do you have any questions for us? You know, for the investigation committee, we'll have questions for them. Do you have any questions for us? And they'll be like, I don't know what to ask. That's kind of a good place to be in, actually. The lodge should be setting up the perfect educational environment. So if they do have questions, we can answer them, but also we will tell you what you need to know. and that's a very heavy responsibility. It is the lodge's job to tell the pages what they need to know. Please, like David says, please do take that seriously. It's very important.
Well, Dylan, this has been a wonderful conversation. This is one that I was really wanting to do with all the rank work we've been doing in the rank of page, and I hope that all of you see the importance of the rank of page and taking it slow, doing it right, making it an experience, sharing that information. If you guys have questions, if you have concerns, please reach out to us. You can always email us at thenightlifepodcast@gmail.com. You can message us on Facebook. Me and Dylan are always readily available to help answer any questions or whatever it is that you have. Please reach out. We hope that each of you like our videos, you watch the full thing. I hope that you guys share the videos with other friends, even if they're not Pythians. Share them with your Freemason friends. Share them with your Oddfellow friends. Share them with your Fraternal Order of Eagles or your Moose Lodgers or, whatever. Share the video, because Pythianism, a lot of people do not know an order like this exists, and I think a lot of people are looking for it. And we want people to be joining the order who are looking for a deeper friendship, a deeper brotherhood, who want to have friendship, charity, and benevolence as a deeper moral compass in their life. And so please share the podcast to hopefully they'll get interested in it. Anyway, Dylan, thanks so much for your time this evening. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you. See you guys.